this video, I want to talk to you about what consultative selling is and give you a really simple example to explain it to you, because it might sound more complicated than it actually is. It's not some dark art, it's something that you probably all know how to do, but you probably don't necessarily know how to apply it to a selling job that you might be in. So I'm going to use the example of my dogs. So I have two dogs. I have Basil and I have Humphrey, two little Scottish Terriers. And prior to owning these two little dogs, I'd never had a dog before in my life. So a year ago, almost to the day, I'd never owned a dog in my life. Therefore, I had no idea what was required to care for a dog. I mean, obviously I knew the basic things that you need food and water and things like that, but I had no idea of the wider health issues around a dog. So what did I do? I went to see a vet, because obviously vets are experts, they're highly trained professionals, and they understand pets and they understand what you need to do to care for a dog. So I went and I consulted, clues in the name, I consulted a vet about the things I might need for the dog. Now, the vet who I saw was a very skillful salesperson in actual fact, and with just by asking a few simple questions around my circumstances, understanding the sorts of things that I have in my life and the environment that the dogs are going to be living in and the home situation that we have, he was able to clearly identify some of the things that I might need, and he was able to educate me, which again is something that you need to do in consultative selling, is educate your customers. Your customers are coming to you because they want you to help them get the best things to solve their current problems and issues, or if they're trying to do something new, they're trying to grow, do something new. They expect you as a professional consultative salesperson to add value to them and educate them, tell them about the products, tell them about your experiences you've had with other customers, which will enable them to think clearly about how your products and services will help them. So what did the vet do? He asked me a quick question. He said to me, do you have a garden, and are the dogs likely to be in that garden sniffing around and playing in the grass, playing in your borders? And yeah, absolutely yes, they did. So the dogs, they are very inquisitive and they love to go in the borders. They have one of them has dug a massive, great big hole in the middle of my lawn. I'm actually considering whether or not I should just turn it into a pond. But yeah, so they're very inquisitive dogs. So he said, have you heard of a thing called lungworm? Now, I'd never heard of a thing called lungworm. I knew that dogs got things like fleas, and I knew that they got things like tapeworms, but I'd never heard of this thing called lungworm. So I asked him, I said, what's lungworm? He said, well, lungworm is particularly dangerous to dogs, and it is found in slugs and snails. So if your dogs are roaming around the garden and they're sniffing in the borders, etc., and they're likely to eat a slug or a snail, they have a high chance of contracting this thing called lungworm. And I was, obviously in the conversation we were having, I asked him, well, what's the consequence of it? I mean, what will happen to the dogs if they get lungworm? And he said it's fatal. It's fatal to them, and if they're not treated, they can potentially die. Now, at this moment, I have a huge need in me. He's created a massive, explicit need in me because I do not want my dog to die. Now, obviously, he's doing this because he knows he has a product which will solve this. So again, he's as the expert in his field, just as you need to be an expert in your field, he knows the solution to the scenario, to my scenario. He understands my world, and he's able to offer me a solution to the sorts of problems that I might encounter. So he tells me, he now comes straight to a product pitch, the thing that most people think of as selling. He's not a salesperson as such, he's a vet, but he told me about this product, which is a liquid that goes on the back of the dog's neck once a month. So he's telling me about the features of the product. Benefit of that is obviously it's convenient because you don't have to do it every single day, you just have to do it once a month. Liquid on the back of the neck, the dog doesn't feel anything. As long as you get the dose right, the dog doesn't get ill. And the main important thing was, and if you put this treatment onto the dog, he won't get any parasites such as lungworm. He'll be protected. You'll have peace of mind that your dogs will be able to roam around the garden, and they will be able to, do all the sorts of things that Scottish Terriers like to do, and they won't be at risk. So a fantastic piece of consultative selling there with me. And again, most people, when they think of selling, they think of the negative things around the sorts of things you'll see on programs such as The Apprentice, when in actual fact, we've seen there, that is a classic example of a brilliant piece of consultative selling. So what you need to do is you need to think carefully about the things you'll need to develop in order to be able to do that. So the first of those things is you need to understand your customer's situation. You need to understand their world. You need to understand the sorts of things they might encounter absolutely intimately, because once you can do that, then you will know where the pieces of pain will be for that customer. You will know the sorts of solutions then you have got in your portfolio of products, because I'm sure you probably have a portfolio of products that you're selling to your customer group. You will be able to select the correct product for the sorts of problems that that customer is likely to have. And that's very valuable. That's a very valuable thing. So first thing is you have to be an expert. Second, you need to develop really strong conversational questioning skills, interviewing skills with your customers, so that you can understand your work. So you don't just assume that your customer has all these problems, that you actually engage in a conversation where you interview and ask questions, and you actually find out from your customer whether they do have those problems and re-qualify that customer. So you need to have expert interviewing / questioning skills. And then you also need to have your expert product knowledge. So you need to be an expert in your product, and you need to be able to present it really, really succinctly. You need to be able to present it impactfully, and you need to relate it directly back to the needs that your customer has you've just identified and agreed with your customer. So that's the other thing. You need to gain agreement with your customer, that you both agree that they have this problem, you have a solution, and the good news is it then just becomes a transactional sale. It just becomes a situation whereby you exchange money, you give them the product or the service, and everybody's happy, and you get repeat business, and that customer hopefully becomes an advocate for you, and everybody's happy. So hopefully that explains what consultative selling is.